Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and the Pokemon TCG's expanded format is a pretty interesting format because it has cards that are from the Black and White era all the way to the standard cards. And obviously, that means that the format is a little bit different. And today I want to take a look at 5 cards, a few honorable mentions as well, that are cards that are in standard but kind of bad in standard. Some are pretty horrible, some are just not super strong. And I want to take a look at how they are in expanded because they are really interesting, and I want to take a look at why they are good in expanded as well. Expanded's format has a few differences. Obviously, there's a lot of card differences, but notably within the format has a lot of control-based cards and a lot of turbo cards as well. And I'll break down specific reasons as to why the cards that we'll talk about are good as well. But I want to take a look at 2 honorable mentions first, and I also have another card that I want to talk about as well. But the first card is Klefki, which is an honorable mention. Klefki is pretty solid in standard. That's why it's not on this list. Definitely, I think the best standard card compared to the other cards that we're going to take a look at, which are, as I said, bad to okay. Klefki has its ability Mischievous Lock, which says if it's in the active, it ability locks basic Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's. A lot of ability lock cards are really good and expanded, and a lot of abilities are really good and expanded as well. Notably, if you look at expanded, there isn't great tournament data, but you have cards like Dedenne GX, Crobat V, and Tapu Lele GX, which are kind of like Squawkabilly EX or Pheasantipty EX, except they're stronger probably. So Klefki is really good. Wobbuffet's another card which is similar, which is also very good. There's just a lot of really good ability lock cards. And Klefki is another one of those, which again is stronger and expanded, but it's already solid in standard. Another card on that list is Gouging Fire EX. Gouging Fire EX is not as strong and expanded, but is still it's pretty good with the supporter card Welder, which allows you to accelerate fire energy to it and then draw some cards, which is pretty solid. Ultimately, this card is like okay in standard as well, with Ho Armrouge and some other things as well. It's just all right. Again, not amazing, but it's okay, and it's better in expanded, but it's not insane in expanded. So I figured it's worth a mention, and it is kind of cool. The last card I have here is not good. It's not a standard card, and it's also not very good, but I saw it and I really wanted to talk about it. So it's the supporter card Well-Rounded Musician, which is not out in English, and I didn't even realize it was legal in Japan. I thought it was just like some weird promo, but it's a supporter that says, well, you sing a song you like, you draw 3 cards, and if your opponent liked the song, they may applause. Um, Yep, not really sure what this card is, but it's a thing. Yep. So here it is. Thought it was funny and worth a mention. Obviously, it's just functionally draw 3, but it is funny. But the first card we have that is actually kind of terrible in standard and actually really strong in expanded is Salamence EX. Salamence EX is a stage 2 dragon Pokemon with 2 attacks here. Wide Blast for 3 energy, which does 50 spread to all your opponent's Pokemon, and Dragon Impact for 4, which does 300, and then you discard 2 energy from it. This card is really good and expanded within the Regidraco V-Star deck, which is by far the best deck in the game. Expanded format is a little broken. Regidraco is like super insane. And Salamence is not played in all the Regidraco decks, but it is pretty good. If you're not familiar with the Regidraco V-Star, it has its attack here, only 1 attack, which is Apex Dragon for Grass, Fire. During your turn, that's the ability. They're swapped here. So you copy a Dragon Pokemon from your discard pile and use it as this attack, or you copy an attack from a Dragon Pokemon in your discard and use that attack. So this does 2 things. One, it ignores the attack cost, although the attack cost on Regidraco is about as difficult as Salamence EX's attack costs. But then Regidraco V-Star also has the fact that it's functionally a stage 1 versus Salamence EX is a stage 2. So you can copy this attack and not have to get this Pokemon into play, which is really good. And Salamence EX in standard is kind of bad. I've not personally played with it. I have played against it a little bit and seen it played a tiny bit, but it's pretty weak because, again, it's a stage 2, but in expanded, it's not really a stage 2. It's functionally like a stage 1 within a really strong deck as well. Regidraco is really good because there's stuff like Dialga GX, which gives you an extra turn. Kyurem, which isn't standard right now. I guess I could actually put Kyurem. I forgot Kyurem existed. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, Kyurem is really good here as well. It's not insane, I guess. It's pretty strong. It's quite good, actually. It's probably better than Salamence, but Salamence is new. And then also you have Dragapult EX, Norvern GX as well, which is a pretty nasty control-based card or disruptive card, and Norvern EX as well. And yeah, there's a lot of really strong Pokemon to copy, and you also have the really powerful, arguably ban-worthy card Double Dragon Energy, which is arguably the most important card in expanded right now. That's like, you could have a big debate about that. But double dragon energy is 2 energy of any type on a dragon Pokemon, and Regidrago, of course, is dragon type, and then you attach it, and then you get another energy on through the use of like Crispin or Raihan or something, and then you're able to attack relatively easily. Unlike in standard, when this was in standard, you have to pair it with Teal Masoga Pontiacs and with like energy switch, which was kind of awkward. So now you don't need to do that, and now it's really, really good. And so as I said, one of the main cards is Salamence EX, which again is like unplayable in standard. Kyurem also, as I mentioned, is here, but Kyurem was like good in standard and was played with Regidrago. So I figured it's more interesting to talk about Salamence, which again, if it wasn't standard with Regidrago, would also be good. And it came out right when Regidrago rotated, which is really disappointing because I think it would have been kind of cool. Regidrago was already really strong, so making it better might not have been good, but I feel like it would have been cool. Also, Wide Blast is like okay and expanded. I don't think it's super strong. Unlike standard, I think it would be a little cooler. But regardless, that combo never arose, but you can see it in expanded. The next card I have here, which this card is probably the worst of the standard cards. I'm not sure. It's not really played. I've never seen it played in standard. Apparently, someone played it a few times, but it's Megaton Blower, which is an ace spec. Of course, this card, if it wasn't an ace spec, would be like super strong or be like pretty strong, I guess. And it is an ace spec, so it's bad. Obviously, there's a lot of good ace specs. Notably, Prime Catcher is in like I was gonna say almost every deck. It's not in almost every deck, but it's in a lot of decks. You also have stuff like Secret Box and Unfair Stamp and other ones that are good. This is definitely near the bottom. It's honestly might be in contention for worst ace spec. Probably not. There's a lot of pretty bad ones, but Megaton Blower is also pretty bad in standard. It says you discard all Pokemon tools and special energy from all your opponent's Pokemon and discard a stadium in play. It is a counter to Lugia V-Star, I guess. It's like pretty bad for that, I suppose, which is not in standard anymore, but it was. And then discarding the stadium is kind of silly, not really that meaningful, and discarding tools is also not super meaningful. There are ways to deal with that. This like is okay in the current format without any item searchable tool removal. There is like jamming tower, but that's not the same because you can't get it off of Arven. And then you did have Lost Vacuum though, which is pretty similar to this in power level. You'd have Enhanced Hammer as well, and then there is also going to be Tool Scrapper in the next set. So this card is presumably not really ever going to be good in Standard. Special Energy has been like okay in Standard when this has been in format. Again, best with Lugia, but okay with some other things. But ultimately, not really super strong. I guess it's seen a little more play looking at these City League tournaments because there's more data, but again, nothing crazy. And most of it's within control things. But I mentioned at the beginning of the video that Expanded has two crazy things. One, super crazy combos, and two, a ton of control. And yeah, most of those crazy combos center around special energy. Some are like absurd with was gonna talk about the Olo and Raichu deck, but that actually will only have special energy on the board. Actually, never during your turn. They'll never have special energy on the board during your turn, presumably. But they're like Regidrago, right, is using double dragon energy, which is a special energy. You have double colorless energy, which we will actually talk about in a second, some more. Then there's also I don't know, like most of the decks are pretty much only playing special energy or mostly special energy. Like this deck plays double color energy and jet energy and capture energy, which are all special energies. So it's really strong for that, and it is an item, so you can use it and also use the supporter for the turn. Discarding tools can be meaningful as well as it can remove ability lock because your opponent could be playing Garbodor, which is a really strong card, which we'll also talk about later on. And also a stadium could be useful to get rid of Path to the Peak or something like that, which is an ability lock stadium. Also something like Silent Lab. There's cards like this which are really, really powerful versus Standard doesn't have super strong stadium, special energy, or Pokemon tools. There are certainly some ones that are decent in Standard, but not amazing. And getting Megaton Blower is not going to allow you to do anything either, presumably, because those special energy tools and stadiums are not shutting you down much at all. So this is a really, really big difference between Expand and Standard. And this is the card that actually is the reason why I'm making this video, because I was making recording my podcast episode with Uncommon Fossil, where we talked about expanded cards in Standard, which is like the other way around. And I looked at the expanded metagame. I was not sure what the most played ace spec was, and it is Megaton Blower. So that's really interesting. It's not like in all the decks. I believe it's Megaton Blower, and Regidrago it is, and that's the main deck. But yeah, it's a really, really strong card there. Moving on to another Pokemon, we have Slaking EX. This is another Stage 2 EX, and this one is okay in Standard, honestly. Like, it's not that good. You can play it though. It's maybe a little underrated, and it's been played. Let's see in City Leagues, yeah, a little bit more, because again, there's more data. But it has the ability Born to Slack, which is actively bad, saying if your opponent has no Pokemon EX or V in play, it can attack. Ultimately, this ability in both Standard and Expanded isn't super meaningful. It does include Pokemon V, which are in Expanded. There aren't any in Standard. So between those, the EX, which is the lowercase EX, not capital. Not that those are played much in Expanded, but they could be, and that is not counted for here. But the lowercase EXs and the Pokemon V are played, in most decks. In the game, Regidrago V-Star, as I said, is the top deck, which actually has 280 HP and is a Pokemon V, so you can one-shot it with your attack here, along with stuff like Lugia V-Star. Iron Thorns EX is played, though that's kind of silly because it also turns off your ability. And there's other, Pokemon that are EX and Vs that are played in almost every deck, like Lumineon V, or maybe not Lumineon V, but it could be, and then Crobat V as well. But then you have your attack here, which is very strong for 2 colors. You do 280, and you discard energy from this Pokemon, which is like not amazing to discard it, but it's not that big of a deal. The big difference in Standard and Expanded, notably, you could play this earlier. In Standard with double turbo energy, which is 2 colors, but you don't have that in Standard now. You do have Neo Upper energy, I guess, but then in Expanded format, you have double colorless energy, which is 2 colorless energy, which just pays your attack cost very easily, and it's a good card naturally. It's not insane like in this list. Well, it is pretty insane, but in this list, it's not doing much outside of paying for Slaking EX. It does allow you to retreat, I guess, sometimes, and then also it allows you to attack with like Pidgeot EX or something, but ultimately it's not super useful. I will also mention you can play stuff like Path to the Peak to turn off your ability. You could do that in Standard with Team Rocket's Watchtower, though, and as I said, most of the time your opponent will have a Pokemon EX or Pokemon V in play, and that's going to be their main attacker a lot of the time, and if not, it's going to be a substantial part of their supporting Pokemon as well, so you're almost guaranteed to be able to attack with this. Again, it's not that big of an issue in Standard or Expanded. It is worth mentioning, though. But again, the attack is just really solid. Your HP is 340, which is super high. It's tied for the highest in Standard/Expanded right now. In Standard, it will be, or I guess in both formats, it will be passed by some of the Mega EXs. Notably, I think the Mega Stage 2 EX is not sure if we'll see Stage 1 EX pass this. We might. And then the basic EX, I don't expect to pass it, but you never know. But regardless, Slaking EX is really, I don't know if it's super interesting, but it's a cool card. It's just a solid stats card. Also, I will mention that in Expanded within this deck that's played in, there are some variations of this deck which are sometimes playing Slaking, sometimes not, and you're able to use the double TM Evolution as well as Grand Tree to get this into play. Both those cards are in Standard, but TM Evolution can be paired with the Bunnelby, which, by the way, is kind of insane and Expanded in my opinion, which can attack twice, which I talked about with my Ancient Traits video I released around a week ago, or maybe a little less, and that's cool, allowing you to get this into play really quickly, or get a lot of evolutions into play just in general, and get to this really efficiently. Then the fourth card we have here is Palafin EX. Palafin EX was one of my favorite cards when revealed. Obviously, if you played live at the time or like heard about it, it didn't work. In Pokemon Live, was like, here's Palafin EX. Like they gave it away for free. And anyways, I figured I'd mention that. Palafin EX actually might not have been the bug card. It might have been the single prize Palafin with its ability 0 to Hero, because Palafin EX has a bad ability, and this ability is really, really bad, not just like not good. It's horrible. It's much worse than the ability on Slaking EX, and it says Hero Spirit, put this Pokemon into play only with the effect of Palafin 0 to Hero ability. It gets it into play, but it's kind of awkward. But you do have absurd stats here. You have 340 HP, the same HP as the Slaking EX we were just talking about, but this is a Stage 1. And then you also have the Attack Your Giga Impact for 1 water, which is 250. Can't attack next turn, which is a little annoying, but whatever. And then you have the, it's only 1 energy, right? So it's probably better than Slaking EX, but it's also a Stage 1, so it's definitely better in that regard. However, you can't play this. This card has not seen as much success as Slaking EX, but it has seen some. As I said, ultimately, the top tournament placings, which is the data here on Limitless, is mostly Regidrago. But Palafin is okay. It's definitely not a bad deck. And Palafin EX can be paired with a few different cards. Maybe, I don't know. The one I know of is Garbodor. There's actually 2 different Garbodors, but they have the ability, they're kind of the same. And they have the ability Garbotoxin, which says if it has a tool attached, then Pokemon in play in each player's hand and discard pile, except for Garbotoxin, don't have abilities. So, you play Garbodor, which, by the way, Garbodor is really good and Expanded. It's played in some Regidraco decks and some other decks. It's just really strong. It was really strong in standard, and is very strong in expanded. You play that, and so it's not an issue to play it. And then you also are able to play your Palafin EX down. The reason this works differently than Iron Thorns EX, Iron Thorns EX only ability locks Pokemon in play. This is almost identical because there are abilities like Luminion V, which is like it's an ability, but it's on play. So by that point, which you play it, it's in play. Even though it's going from hand to play. The Iron Thorns. Luminion V is not in standard, but or trying to think of a better example, but I can't. Regardless, on-play abilities are still stopped by Iron Thorns EX, and that's like the closest thing to a difference between Garbodor and like Iron Thorns that I can think of. That's not actually a difference, which is why they changed the wording to remove talking about in play and in hand and in discard, because ultimately that ability is the wording is a little redundant, except for that's not redundant with Palafin EX. So Palafin EX can't really be played. It cannot be played from any other way outside of the ability in standard, but in expanded it can. That was a little bit of a confusing explanation, but long story short, it's just a stage 1. Now you can ignore the ability, and it's super good because its stats are like super insane. The best stats ever on a card realistically because of its ability being so bad, which you can negate, and then you pair it with Garbodor, which again is good. Garbodor is played in a variety of different decks in expanded. I will also mention Ultra Crozma, another card similar to that, which is a cool card in expanded, which has an ability you turn off. But Palafin, I mean, I guess it's not super interesting, kind of like Slaking. When you take away its ability, it's just a Pokemon with good stats, but it is a Pokemon with really good stats and kind of a fun combo there. Last card we have here is another Dragon Pokemon, Koraidon EX, with 2 attacks here. Retribution Strike for 2 colors, which does 20, 10 more for each damage counter on this Pokemon, and Kaiser Tackle for Fighting Fire, 280 and 60 to itself. This is played in Regidraco and also played in not Regidraco, like with decks that play Archeops, where you play double Dragon Energy and you just get double Dragon Energy. And Koraidon EX is really good because 280 is really solid, as I mentioned with Slaking EX, and Regidraco has it. Lugia V-Star, another top Pokemon slash deck, has 280. You can look at tag teams have 280 pretty commonly, and yeah, you can just go ahead and attack relatively easily using double Dragon Energy and another energy, potentially another double Dragon Energy. This list plays Prism Energy as well. You can do 3 Prism Energies or a double Dragon and a Prism Energy and just attack. And like this Archeops deck, you can just power up pretty much any Pokemon ever, at least any basic, really easily using Archeops. And you get into play with Pokemon Research Lab, and you just get double Archeops, and you're good. You just kind of win from there because you can attack with any Pokemon, including Koraidon, which is just, as I said, really solid. The self-damage isn't that bad. It can power you up, and notably, it's okay. And yeah, this card is pretty bad in standard, though, because ultimately it doesn't really have a place. It could have been played in Regidraco in standard, could be played in Ancient Box. What was this deck? Excadrill, Garchomp. You could play in this, apparently. I have not seen that combo of those 3 played. But ultimately, this card is, just not so strong in standard. I do think it is, like, kind of okay. You could kind of play it with, like, Sadas and some stuff, but it's kind of awkward. But ultimately, it's just a Pokemon with, again, pretty good stats, except you can actually power it up in expanded relatively easily. And in Regidraco V-Star, you could, play, you have your Regidraco, which is 2 grass and a fire, which is 2 double dragon and a fire, or a grass, and then you can power up Koraidon EX as a basic without needing to play Regidraco V-Star by using the double dragon and the fire energy, and then all of a sudden you're attacking with it as a basic, which is really solid using like Rhyhorn or Crispin or something. So that's also another thing that you can do that's pretty nice. You could theoretically do that turn 1 going second as well, which could be really nice. As well, you can use your Crispin, get the fire from deck, and I guess the grass, accelerate the fire, put the grass to your hand, and then, of course, you just attach the double dragon, and from there, you're going to be able to go ahead and just attack, right? Turn 1, which could be cool. Or you could, like, Badoo, right? It's just like standard. You could just use Badoo. But overall, Expanded has some really cool cards. Tell me down below, though, if there's any that you think I missed that are cool standard cards that are opened up in Expanded. And tell me down below if you want more Expanded content, because I like talking about it. There's only so much to talk about with Expanded, despite the fact that it's bigger. It's not played as much. There's less stuff to analyze. But I hope you enjoyed. Consider liking, subscribing, hitting the bell, all that good stuff. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.